I've got Eniola Bello, Managing Director at THISDAY Newspaper, that is the paper here in Nigeria, our sister publishing house, to give his thoughts on this as well. Eniola, it's good to have you with us and welcome. So what do you make of the highlights and discussions so far at the World Economic Forum? Are they addressing current realities globally and as it affects Africa as well?
Well, absolutely. If you look at what is happening outside of the conference, like the violence in Joburg, the black on black violence, and the attack or the response from Lagos, where there was an attack on ShopRite, you realize that based on the issues being discussed here, issues of unemployment, issues of lack of skill by our youths, so the issues are very, very relevant. Very, very relevant.
Mood of the participants at this conference. Hello,
yeah.
Eniola, if you can hear me. Can you hear me, please?
Hello. Yeah.
All right, so...
I can hear you.
Very good. So how would you gauge the mood?
I can hear you.
Indeed. How would you gauge the mood of participants at this conference? Are they willing to abide by whatever decisions are being taken and, of course, to put it into practice afterwards?
Well, it is difficult to say because most of our politicians so far, I haven't seen the politicians that matter. You know, the people that formulate policies and implement policies. In terms of the group of experts here, they have been making very relevant proposals on how these problems could be addressed. But whether those problems, or whether there are recommendations to get to the politicians, they differ entirely.
All right. Earlier on, we were talking about the xenophobic attacks on non-South Africans, particularly Nigerians, as it were. You know, what has been, from your own interactions with people there, what has been the response of people towards this?
I didn't get that, please.
Yes, earlier on, we were talking about the xenophobic attacks in South Africa. We threatened to overshadow the World Economic Forum, as it were. But what has been your response? I'm sorry, I'm talking about the response of people over there towards this incident.
Well, the people are generally shocked, you know. The people are alarmed that how can this happen? How can this be allowed to happen? The kind of, the extent of violence, the killings, that it is not good for Africa, for Africa's future, and that not even with the recent policy or what is being done by the AU in terms of bringing proper integration in the area of trade, in the area of movement, in the area of free trade across the continent, that this violence will damage what has been done by African leaders, and that something should be done to arrest the violence. Like it's a failure of leadership from South Africa that this kind of things will happen to this extent, and nothing appears to be done, or nothing can be seen to be done.
All right, very good, Eniola. Now,
there's a general sense of panic.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
I said there's a general sense of panic, really, because it's difficult, for example, for people are cautious on where they go to. Although Cape Coast appears quiet compared to Joburg, but people are not prepared to venture out to have a feel of the town, because you don't know exactly what will happen.
All right, Eniola, you attended a session tagged Delivering the Promise of the Africa Youth. So what are your major takeaways from that session?
The takeaways, I mean, essentially, when you look at the statistics that came out of that session in terms of the youth, about 25% of African population are youth, and almost all of them, or most of them, have no job. The rate of unemployment is quite high, and then they don't even have the skill. Those who even went to school, they don't have the skill. And in an age whereby people are talking of AI, talking of big data, talking of artificial intelligence, in what has been described as the fourth industrial revolution. And then you have the kind of education that we have that has not empowered are used with the necessary skill. is, people are concerned that the way we are going, Africa will not be part of the world in the nearest future because of our kind of politicians that we have, the kind of leadership that we have in the area of politics, who are more concerned about what they can get out of policy rather than about the future of the people, rather than about the future of the continent, rather than about development. So that our politics has to change. That our politics has to change. That our politicians, the kind of politicians that we have, we need a new set of politicians who will change things, who will look at where the world is going to and be part of the train, or Africa will be left behind.
Indeed, you're very right on that, Eniola. Now, ultimately, do you see this conference having any impact, as it were?
Did I say what?
Do you see this conference having any impact? Yes, it's good to discuss all these germane issues pertaining to the continent, but is this another talk shop, or we're going to see something more concrete this time around?
Sorry, it's not very clear. I didn't get that very well.
Eniola, if you can hear me now, I talked about the conference, the World Economic Forum. Is this having any impact on current realities on ground in terms of the challenges, the innovations, the problems, as it were? Is this just another talk shop?
Well, if you look at the issues being discussed, the range of experts across generations, across not just people who are of the older generation, even among the youth of some of the sessions I've attended, the youth they are becoming impatient. So ordinarily, I believe it should have impact if only we have the right set of leadership. I think the area that would need to be focused on is how to get the right set of politicians, not the kind of politicians that we have at the moment, who can understand where Africa needs to be, who can understand the current set of development things across the world and key into it. Until we get there, perhaps it might just simply end up with a mere talk shop, as you said. The fact is that our politicians are completely out of the loop. They are not there at all, and they don't even appear to be interested.
Yes, you're right. Obviously, you would think, just like you said, politicians need to be present at this occasion, like you said. Now, still talking about the session you attended, do you think the participants, those who gave keynote address, actually hit the nail on the head on the issues being tabled before that session?
What? Yes and no. There are some, for example, Obvious Ezekwesili was quite frank and he spoke frankly to the issues. But there are also some, because of their, those of them who are in big business, who are not very forthcoming, who rather leave the issues to politicians. The same politicians that people are complaining about, that are not doing well, that are not focused, that are only keen on what they can take out of government. It's difficult to now say you leave issues to them. So we need to address issues frankly and seriously, which some of the speakers, in a way, were quite frank about.
All right, and on that note, Eniola Bello, Managing Director of THISDAY Newspaper, our sister publishing house here in Nigeria. I'd like to thank you very much for your thoughts on these issues. Good to have you.